Ever wanted to play Hypixel Skyblock with unlimited enchantment levels? Perhaps say scavenger a million to get hundreds of thousands of coins per kill? Well, you've come to the right place. Hey guys, BlueCommander here, and after a whole month of grinding, we're finally back with episode 6 in my quest to recreate the entire Hypixel Skyblock game mode using just command blocks. Telekinesis, Venomous, Replenish, you name it, I've done it. In today's episode, I've recreated all 59 enchantments from the game. And that's not all. Furthermore, I'll be taking on the custom Enchanting Table, Anvil, begin work on the fishing system, and much more. So make sure you stick around till the end for all the awesome work that's been done. If you're not caught up on episodes 1 to 5, I invite you to check them out. The complete playlist is on the top right of your screen right now. But the most important thing you'll be wondering is, yes, in the future I will be releasing this to download, so you can play it in single player or your private servers with small groups of friends. But without further ado, let's jump right into everything new. Alright, so before we make the enchantments, I'm going to have to actually make it so you can get them somewhere. So we're going to have to make the Enchanting Table. Right now, not even the vanilla Minecraft enchantments work, because instead of using Minecraft's health and damage system back in episode 2, I decided to make my own, so it would be closer to what Hypixel Skyblock is like. So for example, Sharpness would normally deal more damage, but if I apply Sharpness 5 to this sword, right now it does absolutely nothing. I began my work on the custom Enchanting Table GUI by spawning in a minecart on top of the player, as soon as they are looking directly at the Enchanting Table. This is much better than the system I used for the crafting table, if anyone remembers it back from episode 2, where I basically retextured a barrel to look like a crafting table. Although this worked, it wasn't going to be multiplayer friendly going forward, as whoever opened the crafting table would be able to see the other person's items as well. Whereas this system, everyone has their own menus. This minecart contains a menu just like the one in Hypixel Skyblock, so when we apply the resource pack that makes minecarts invisible, it makes us open this brand new shiny menu rather than this hideous thing here. The only issue with this is if the player looks at the very corner of the Enchanting Table, it is still occasionally possible to open the original GUI. So I also changed the Enchanting Table to a retextured end portal frame, so no matter what happened, it was 100% impossible to open the old menu. By the way, this end portal retexture only affects the ones I use for the Enchanting Table, so therefore won't affect any of the other ones in the map around the place. Awesome. However, although this fixed one problem, it has created another unfortunately. As it's no longer a real Enchanting Table, we can't see the floating book on top anymore, but we'll fix this in a little while. Next up is adding functionality to the menu, as right now it does nothing other than prevent you from taking the menu items. So, be right back. Okay, a lot has been done since then. Mainly, it now checks the item you enter. So if I put in more than one item, it gives me the appropriate error saying I should only have one item in there. If I have no item, it tells me I need to enter an item. Entering an unenchantable item gives me the appropriate error. And although you can't complete an enchant yet, I've also already made the error message so it won't let you enchant something twice. But if none of these apply, it places these enchanted bottles. Also, me and several of my helpers have done some testing, and we've realised that the Hypixel Skyblock Enchanting Table uses pretty much the exact same system to decide enchantments and slot levels as the vanilla table. And, as the vanilla table has lots of in-depth pages online explaining how it works, this will make the recreating much easier, as I expected to have to work out everything by myself. After this, finishing off the Enchanting Table took me well over a week, but although I could talk about it all day, we've got lots to get through, so I'm just going to quickly bullet point all the steps it took to finish it, rather than going in depth fully. Number 1, I made it randomly decide the levels of each slot. Then number 2, I added bookshelf support, and I also made it cap to 64 like it does in Skyblock, rather than the vanilla 30 levels. Number 3, by making an armor stand for every single enchant in the game, I got it to randomly choose the first enchantment using the @R selector. But when I say random, I mean random. Every single enchantment had an equal chance of showing up, regardless of the XP level and the slot, and enchantments which just shouldn't be possible, for example power on a sword, could easily show up. Number 4, I had to move from this really bad system into the real system. And although it was really complex, I actually managed to do it. I won't really talk about how it works, as it's probably one of the most complex parts of the entire project so far. But if you're interested in the subject, I highly recommend you check out the Enchanting Mechanics page, which is what I used for all of my knowledge. I'll drop it in the description of this video for anyone interested. This means all of the issues I just mentioned got fixed, so it now takes into account the XP level of the slot, what item it is, for example a sword, and some enchantments are just naturally rarer than others. Number 5, this only works out the first enchantment, so I coded in the other algorithm to work out the others. Number 6, the system now prevents conflicting enchantments such as Sharpness, Smite and Bane of Arthropods. So, no matter how many times I refresh this, you won't see them together. Now all that's left is to put the enchantments onto the item when you click the button. And the tricky part of that is updating the lore of the item. Enchantments on there are listed between the item stats and the descriptions to make it really clear what enchantments you have. To do this, I created something I call a lore generator. This lore generator, when used on an item, removes all of its existing lore and then remakes it one line at a time. So when it's finished, it looks identical, except it now has the enchantments showing. For this to work properly, I needed to add some more MBT to every single item in the game. But luckily 2 beta testers, Guinea Pig and 𝐒𝐥𝐤𝐼𝐻, updated most of them for me, so shout out to you two. So with this done, if I enchant this diamond sword, it works! It also works for any item, so even if I enchant something like superior armor, which has abilities, descriptions, default stats and whatever else, it still places the lore where you'd expect. And it also checks and takes XP as you'd expect. It also has the different types of enchantment listing. So right now it's also including the descriptions, but if I had 6+, it would just put them into a list of names. Although this won't really be useful until we add the Anvil later. Something neat is these enchantments work with unlimited levels. So when this comes out, people will be able to cheat in any enchant level to mess with. Good stuff. As for our problem of the enchantment table book not showing, I asked another command YouTuber named MC Tests, who had already recreated this book for one of their adventure maps, and I asked if I could use it for our project and he said yes. There's a card in the top right if you want to show them some love, but thanks so much. We've now successfully recreated the enchanting table inside an invisible chest minecart. And the moment you've all been waiting for has come, making all of the enchantments work. So let's begin. This first enchantment is one of the most important in the entire game, Telekinesis. This enchantment moves items instantly into your inventory, which was actually quite challenging to achieve, as there's so many parts to it, killing mobs, mining blocks, shearing sheep, etc. But as you can see, the final result turned out pretty good. Replenish is a brand new enchant to Skyblock, which auto replaces crops for you. It was really tricky making this compatible with Telekinesis, but I managed to do it. Thirdly, we have Experience, Harvesting and Fortune, which all give a chance to get double XP or drops. The reason I had to remake Fortune is the vanilla Minecraft Fortune also has a chance of getting 3 times and 4 times drops. Hey everyone, Blue from the future here. Sorry to interrupt the video, we'll get back to a bunch more enchantments very quickly. But I wanted to quickly remind you that this video took an entire month of grinding to complete. So, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, it would mean the literal world to me if you could subscribe right now. I know everyone thinks their single sub won't make a difference, but trust me when I say it really does. Also, I was hearing on an 𝐒𝐿 live stream that YouTube actually changed the algorithm somewhat. So now more than ever, a like, comment and sharing with your friends really helps the video get recommended to more people. So if you want to do any of those things, that would be insanely appreciated. Thank you all so much for 10,000 subscribers by the way. I still can't believe that we've got there already. But we've got to go big or go home, so our new target for the end of the year is 30,000 subscribers. To be honest, I don't know if that's even possible, but you guys never fail to impress me, so who even knows at this point? Anyway, hope you're all enjoying so far and let's get straight back into the video. Are you ready for the best enchantment in the whole of Skyblock? That's right, here's Rainbow, the super useful enchantment that gives you random wool colours when shearing sheep. I also made the damage multiplier system, so sharpness and power now actually do damage, as do Cubism, Dragon Hunter, Ender Slayer, Impaling, Bane of Arthropods and Smite. Last episode we coded a magic find for mob drops, so building off that, I added luck this episode, which gives you a higher chance of getting armor mob drops. Growth and protection add health and defense to an item. And as you can see, thanks to my lore generator, it also updates the values at the top of the item as well. On the theme of protection, I also decided to add the other ones next. So, Projectile Protection and Blast Protection are now in. Fire Protection, however, was a completely different story. After testing on real Hypixel Skyblock, I noticed Fire Protection seems to do absolutely nothing. Without, it does 5, and with, it does 5. So I'm just going to have to assume it's a broken enchantment. But I find it funny how nobody's probably ever noticed this because it's literally the most pointless enchantment ever. Speaking on broken enchantments, I'm pretty sure Lethality is also broken. It's meant to reduce the armor of a target, but A, every mob I hit with a plain sword deals the exact same damage, suggesting to me that armor doesn't even exist on mobs. And B, if I enchant a sword with Lethality, no matter how many times I hit it, it deals the exact same damage, whereas you'd expect it to deal more every time you hit it. Therefore, I'll just have to leave these two for now until they're either fixed or I realise what I'm doing wrong. True Protection gives the player more true defense, although true defense stat hasn't actually been implemented into my game yet, so I'll have to do that in another episode. I remade Thorns using a hybrid of the vanilla enchantment and custom code, so vanilla Thorns hits the attacker 50% of the time, then Skyblock Thorns takes over to deal 3% of the damage per level. Next is Scavenger, which makes mobs drop more coins on death, but before I could add that, I need to make normal coin dropping. To do this, me and some of my beta testers manually killed every single mob in the game to work out their base coins dropped. And it now works. This system's also pretty smart, as it uses the 3 different types of coins: iron, which is 1 coin, gold, which is 10 coins, diamond 50 coins, and uses those in the most efficient way possible. So for example, killing a mob that dropped 126 coins will drop 2 diamonds, 2 gold and 6 iron. Scavenger works too. Next is Smelting Touch, which all I had to do was make a couple of changes to the vanilla block loot tables and it worked. Aiming and Infinite Quiver all got completed afterwards. Also Snipe, which deals more damage the further away I get. Now, I think it's time to start looking at some fishing enchantments. But as I haven't done any Skyblock fishing system yet, I think I've got quite a bit of work on my hands. Firstly, I already had sea creature chance in the profile menu, but now I've made it actually function. It generates a random number from 1 to 100, and if that's less than my sea creature chance, it kills the item and summons a sea creature instead. I didn't include sea creatures in my last video on mobs, and this video isn't about fishing so I don't want to spend ages making every single mob. But for now I've made it summon the squid. In addition, Angler works, and cheating in high levels such as 100, we can guarantee sea creatures, which is always pretty fun. Frail takes off some of the health from the sea creatures when they're first spawned in. Blessing doubles drops, and Luck increases the chance of you getting treasure, although right now I've only added 1 treasure item and that's a golden apple. Castle would reduce the chance to consume bait, but since I haven't done fishing baits yet, right now it just says in chat whether it would have consumed it or not. Magnet gives you extra experience points when you fish, and the final fishing enchantment is Spiked Hook, which makes fishing hooks deal increased damage to mobs when you hit them. Then, we have a bunch of other sword enchants. Cleave, which deals damage to nearby mobs, although in 1.16 this is already a thing called a sweep attack, so I removed those to give Cleave a purpose still. Number 2, Critical, which adds crit damage onto your sword. Number 3 is Execute and Giant Killer, which deal more damage the lower the remaining health, and the higher the max health respectively. I got both of these algorithms from the Skyblock wiki, so thanks to them. Number 5, Fire Aspect, which had to be remade as well, as the vanilla Fire Aspect always has a 4-second duration. Number 6, First Strike, which, you guessed it, makes your first strike deal more damage. Number 7, Thunderlord strikes lightning, and this was probably the hardest sword enchantment, as I had so many issues with the lightning, as you'd know if you've been watching my YouTube live streams. Then there's number 8, Venomous, that deals some sort of fire damage ripoff or something, but also has this cool part which slows down targets, which I achieved using the brand new /attribute command from 1.16. While on the topic, I no longer use the player offhand for speed or attack speed, so now you can put stuff back into your offhand. Furthermore, while moving attack speed onto the new system, I added it to the profile head like they did in the recent Skyblock update. Anyway, we have healing enchantments Lifesteal and Vampirism. One heals you every hit and the other heals you every kill. Then we have several enchantments which are almost identical to their vanilla counterparts: Knockback, Punch, Depth Strider, Flame, Aqua Affinity, Efficiency, Respiration, Silk Touch, Looting, Lure, so basically anything that involved movement or mining speeds. Feather Falling is actually a tricky one, because Skyblock's version has a little extra bit here which increases the height before you take full damage. I also realised even without Feather Falling, this full damage height minimum is 3 blocks higher than normal Minecraft. This effect is impossible to replicate with just vanilla falling damage, so just because of this single feature, I had to remake my own falling system. I did this by first disabling the vanilla system, then using falling scoreboards to detect how far the player falls, and finally I can use that to check if the player is above or below the minimum height to take damage. If it's higher, I can give the player instant damage to make it look like they've taken damage, and do some scoreboard calculations to determine how much damage should be dealt. So now I only take damage above 6 blocks, and if I put on Feather Falling, I get an increased minimum height, as well as a damage percentage reduction. Great. Penultimately, we have Piercing and Frostwalker. Frostwalker had to be remade as the vanilla one makes a circle instead of a square, and also the ice is unmineable. Okay, we have one last enchantment before we've made every single one in the game. Can you guess what it is? You got 3 seconds. And time's up. The answer is Sugar Rush. Zoom. In other news, the sidebar title's now animated like it is in Hypixel, so that's cool. Thanks to bad boy 𝐒𝐥𝐤𝐿 from my Discord for making that for me. And the final thing this episode, anvils. To make them even more fun, I'm also going to add the optional setting of removing the enchantment cap. But hold on to that thought, we need to actually make it first. The behind the scenes system's very similar to the Enchanting Table, so we should be able to get through this pretty fast. Step 1 was to make the anvil unable to open the old menu, and also show our new menu. Step 2 was changing these bars between red and green based on whether the items you entered were allowed, as well as adding all the error messages. So for example, adding rotten flesh clearly isn't possible, this projectile protection book won't make any difference to a bow, etc, etc. Step 3 is the preview item, which was done by putting the first item there, combining the enchantments together, and then using my lore generator which I used previously at the Enchanting Table, to then update the preview lore. Step 4, updating this anvil item with the enchantment cost, which is calculated with the exact same costs we found on Skyblock. Then step 5 was to make the combining actually functional, which is done by first adding this message to the bottom of the preview. Then, if you click the button and have enough levels, it removes that lore from the bottom, takes the input items, and finally lets you take your output item. Finally, step 6, anvil uses. Anvil uses are running total on how many times an item's been put through the anvil. This is used in the cost, so every time you combine an item, it'll be more expensive to combine that same item again. This feature is usually just behind the scenes, but as I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Skyblock add-ons mod, one of its features actually shows anvil uses in the lore of items. As I find this extremely useful personally, I added it to the remake as an optional setting. By default, you can't see the anvil uses, but if I run /trigger show anvil uses, and then use an anvil, you'll see the anvil uses appear. The time has come for a setting removing the enchantment cap. Of course, by default we would just want it to cap out, so 2 aiming 5s for example would just result in an aiming 5. But you can enable this trigger, and then our example will become an aiming 6 book, and this can repeat on and on and on for super high levels. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this episode. But if you just can't get enough of this series, I do have a second channel, More Blue, where since episode 5, I released a video fixing 101 bugs, which was pretty crazy. Thank you so much to my incredible patrons you're seeing on screen right now. You guys are the best. If you're interested, you can also check it out in the description of this video. It has a bunch of rewards, but don't worry, if you don't want to, you watching my videos is already supporting me, so regardless, thank you. An important note though is last episode, I said you could become a beta tester by pledging on my Patreon, but that is no longer the case. At the moment, beta testers are just picked based on people I think deserve it and would be useful for testing. And that's decided on my Discord server, which is linked in the description if you're interested. We've only got a couple more essential things to do before it's playable enough for our first release as well. The goal is to make it playable enough for a first release as soon as possible, and then afterwards I can release updates with new content as I go. I started doing some YouTube coding live streams, so if you're interested in those, I recommend you turn on post notifications, as I am awful at sticking to a regular schedule. And also, I literally never mention my Twitter ever, so if you want to go follow that, it's at itsbluecmdr. It's pretty lonely over there, so it'd be great to see some new faces. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I catch you in the next one, but for now, have a wonderful day. Bye!